Hi guys, I'm back. Welcome. Danny here from the Magic Junk Drawer. And I am answering here a viewer's question. We, for today's video, will call this viewer Elaine. So Elaine's question is, can you use the law of attraction to attract back a specific person? Hang on, I'm getting this camera set up. You know, sometimes when you go live, they just don't give you enough time to get settled. Can you use the law of attraction to bring back a specific person, even if this person is not talking to you, you have no way to contact them, they've blocked you on all kinds of social media and whatever. And the answer to that is yes. So the first thing is, the first issue that we have is that we stand in our own way. The reason being is that we're very logical. So if somebody has not talked to us in 6 months or a year, we think we're never going to hear from them. And that's what's in our head, and that's the story that we keep repeating. So a few weeks ago, and I know I've mentioned this story before about my friend from high school. She's like my best friend. So I'm in this store that she used to work at when we were in high school or college, and I'm hysterical laughing because they're playing disco music, and I don't know why I'm finding the whole thing funny. We thought it was funny that she worked there. Anyway, so I leave the store, and as I'm walking out the store, she is walking up towards the store. She wasn't going to the craft store, she was going to the pet store next door. So I came out laughing just because of where I was. And I had like camera makeup on, because I was shooting videos earlier in the day. And normally I don't have that much makeup on, especially if I have to go to work, because I teach hot yoga. And you know what you look like after you've been teaching hot yoga? You look like Alice Cooper. It's bad enough with the bandana on my head. Half the time I gotta look like Keith Richards. But you know what? It is what it is. It's not a beauty contest, hot yoga. So, and she's like, oh, nice makeup. She's like, I see that you did contours or something. We were just outside laughing. But I don't speak to her every day like I did when I was in high school. In fact, I can go weeks and months without hearing from her, and I don't think twice about it. She comes to my classes on Monday nights sometimes when it fits into her schedule. It's not all the time, and that's okay. But the thing is that in my head, I don't have this resistance to see or speaking to her because she's my friend. Let me get this guy some coconut oil. Come on now, you have to stop. No barking. So I'm not resistant. There is no resistance that I'm holding with my relationship with her. I am not at any point thinking to myself, I'm never going to hear from her again. She doesn't want anything to do with me. She thinks that I'm annoying. She doesn't want to be my friend anymore. I don't think that. And that's not what I get. Now, I could call her up right now, right, and say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And if she was available, she would do it for me. And I know she would. But that's my belief. That's my belief, and that's what I'll get. Over the summer, last summer, I had an issue last minute with my car, and I had a feeling she was going to come to my class. And if she didn't come to the class, I could have jogged to the studio because I'm close enough to that studio. But I figured, let me try her first. And I was like, do you think that you can pick me up before on your way in? Which was out of her way, and would you mind giving me a ride home? And she was like, yeah, I don't care, no problem. Now, I never held the belief that, oh my God, she's gonna think I'm annoying. Oh my God, she's gonna have to go out of her way for me. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. I didn't think that. And that's not what gets reflected back to me. So when you have an issue with a specific person who is behaving in a way where you think that they're never gonna change, they're never going to change until you change that belief. So it's very interesting. When I was like, I think I was 19 or 20 when I met him. I had this guy that I was dating, and not for very long, but it went on for a long time. So it's like maybe we were seeing each other for a few months, and he just disappeared. He literally disappeared. Like he just one day stopped taking my phone calls, I never heard from him again. We didn't have a fight. I have no idea what happened. And, you know, like, I was, like, really upset by this. So I'm going to say, right, that was, like, around March. It was around my birthday that he disappeared. It was probably a good year that I didn't hear from him. Probably a good year. And I had no idea what happened. Now, this is back before people were, you know, stalking and this, that, the next thing on the internet and looking up things. There would have been no way. Look, the only thing that I could have done is drive past his house 50 times. And what was that going to tell me? Oh, his car is there. His car is not there. I mean, you don't know if someone's not home. Like, my car was home the day that it broke down and my friend picked me up and took me to work. Like, I wasn't home. So what does that tell you? It tells you absolutely nothing. All it does is gives you material to write a story. So you see his car home, you see nobody else's car is there, you think, oh, he's home alone, he's not doing anything. When that can be, he could be on safari in Africa, for all you know, and his car is home. But you drove past his house, you saw the car, and now you think you know what's going on. And now you're writing a story. Now, these stories are going to play out in reality, and they don't always happen immediately. So at some point, you're going to see the story being reflected back to you. This is why I always tell people, stay off of fucking social media. Because if you're on social media, you're writing your own stories. You don't know what's real and what's fake, and people put up things that they want you to believe, not what's true. So you see him with this person, and, oh, I got the best boyfriend ever. Meanwhile, she's screwing the guy down the street. And you're not going to tell me that that's not true, because I read tarot cards and I know it's true because people call me up and tell me. So I know that it's true. So the point here is, after a year of me not hearing from him, he runs into a friend of mine in the mall. Dylan, knock it off. No, no more. I'm going to give you some food and then that's it. No more. Now stop it. Enough. 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 All right, so he runs into a good friend of mine, and he kind of gives her this song and dance like, oh, I haven't heard from Danny in a long time. I wonder why. Here's my beeper number. This was back when people had beepers, and you know how those beepers were. Sometimes they really didn't get the beep, and other times they just used that as an excuse, which was kind of believable because sometimes they didn't get the beep. So my friend calls me and she tells me the story, and I beep him and he calls me back and we start talking again, and I don't remember how long it was, but he disappears again. And I was really upset, but you know, when somebody hurts you once and you really didn't think that they were going to, it's bad. When somebody does it the second time, it's not as bad because you've already lived through it. And you're kind of like, well, what did I expect? Right? And now, but here's the thing. He did it to me once. So this was programmed into my head that at any point he could do it again. And he did. So he does it again. He disappears again. So the whole time that I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking things like, well, is it something I said? Is it something I did? Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe he found someone he liked better. All these thoughts run through your mind because you just don't understand it. Logically, it doesn't make sense why somebody would just disappear and then reappear. Like, if you didn't like me, that's fine. You got rid of me. Why would you come back? Okay. Disappears again. Now, I remember the place I was living in. Dylan, lay down. No. You've had everything that you could possibly need. We're not doing this anymore. You're going to lay down. So the place that I was living at while this was going on, I only lived there 2 years. So it was less than a year later when he contacted me. He didn't contact me again. This is what happened. I get a phone call one Sunday afternoon. I was home. And I actually thought that it was my friend, the one I just told you about. And I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? And she's like, no, you don't know me. And I was like, oh, all right. and she told me that she was his sister and that he had joined, it was the Navy. He joined the Navy, and that he was in basic training, and that they were going to send him to wherever he was going to be stationed, and he wasn't going to know where that was until, he got there. Like, they don't tell you in advance. So she gave me this story that he really wants to talk to you. He wants to connect with you, but if you're going to write him, you have to do it now because he's graduating Monday or next Monday or whatever. I didn't have much time. So I'm like, leave it to this guy, right? To come and go as he pleases. And now all of a sudden I'm under the gun to send him a letter before he leaves to God knows where. And I never got my answers as to why he disappeared either of the times, right? So what do? Me being the person that I am, I send a letter and I take it to the post office and I overnight it so that I knew. I wrote the letter Sunday night. I mailed it out on Monday, and he probably got it Tuesday. Now, this is where things got really strange with him. When he was away on service, he would call me sometimes, not all the time, not often, but he would call me and he would write me, not often, but he would write me. And when he came home, he never really wanted to see me. Like, he always had an excuse. He would come in and he would see me at the A&P, but he never wanted to see me in person, like where we had time together. But I kind of had that relationship with him even when I was seeing him. Like, I always felt like he had an excuse where we couldn't get together, but yet he always wanted to talk on the phone with me. So yeah, it was bizarre. So now this is probably 3 years, maybe 2 or 3 years in, and we're having this relationship where we're sending letters back and forth. Because this is before the time of cell phones and stuff like that, and the only way that I could reach him would be through sending snail mail, through the mail. And I did, and I sent him care packages, and I sent him all kinds of shit, because I didn't want him to be like, when they came around with mail, I didn't want him to be somebody that didn't get anything, and everybody else was getting stuff. I always wanted there to be something for him. What an asshole, right? Anyway, so at some point, this is where things get even more strange. I get a postcard from one of his shipmates, and the guy says something to the effect like, I hear that you like having a pen pal, or something really bizarre, and I was wondering if we could be pen pals. Yeah, it was really bizarre. So I wrote him and I was like, why would you give my address to somebody and have them send me a postcard? And then when he wrote back. Now, this is how frustrating it has to be. First of all, God knows how long it took for him to get my letter. God knows how long it took for him to fucking answer me. Dylan, knock it off. No barking. By the time I got his letter, I don't even know how long I had to wait. Like, it was always like waiting. So he sends a letter saying that the last time that he was home on leave, he was going to marry his girlfriend and he found her with somebody else, and that he was just completely devastated. And all of this nonsense. Now, I wrote him back a really nasty fucking letter because, first of all, why are you contacting me, calling me, sending me emails if you've had this other girlfriend the whole time? That doesn't make sense. And if you didn't want to have anything to do with me, why do you keep coming back to me, right? Because that didn't make sense. And now I have nobody to talk to, right, that knows him except for one of his friends. And you would fucking believe this? I call his friend, and his friend is on vacation for 2 weeks. So I have to wait 2 more weeks now to talk to the friend. So when I'm telling you, like, there was so much frustration built up around me and the waiting and not having answers, and why is this guy pulling this bullshit with me? And when I finally got in touch with his friend was like, I don't know why he would send you a letter like that. He has not been dating anyone. He was not getting married. I don't know why he is such a liar, but he has some serious problems. And I can't remember if I sent him another letter after that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I don't know exactly how long it was, but maybe 6 months later. Yeah, I'm not really sure. We weren't living in that same place, so I moved. So it had to be at least 6 months later. I met my boyfriend Tom, who I dated for a long time. And then I was just over it. I'd forgotten about him. I didn't even care what he did anymore. But the reason why I'm telling you the story is because if our thoughts are creating the situation, you are getting exactly what you think. So when I first started seeing him, I never felt like it was stable. I never felt like it was secure. And I always kind of felt like at any point it could crumble. Like it was the vibe that I got. Now, there is a fine line between holding on to a vibe that you're getting and something that you're putting out there. So it could be that I had a lot of instability in my life. My parents were divorced. After my parents' divorce, we moved a lot. There wasn't a lot of stability, and I talked about it before. The one stable thing I had in my life really was A&P. So I always kind of felt like I never had anybody that was always going to be reliable. My grandparents were reliable, but I never really felt like secure in anything, with anything. So it's not hard to understand why I would be projecting this out, because this is the feeling that I always had. I mean, when I was the kid in nursery school that I would cry because I would think that my mother wasn't coming back. My father had a business that took him down to Florida when I was in elementary school, and I used to cry, even like 9, 10 years old, like cry terrible when he would go to Florida because I felt like he was never going to come back. But both of those things happened. My mom died very young. She never came back. And my father moved to Florida. He never came back. So there's a fine line between picking up an intuitive thing and pushing out something. So if you're pushing out this idea of, he's never going to call me again, I'm never going to speak to him again, he thinks I'm annoying, he doesn't want to contact me, he's too busy with everything else is more important, then that's exactly what you're going to get back. And what's going to happen is, just like with this guy that I was dating, he disappeared once and he proved me right. Your life is not stable. People don't show up for you. Things are very insecure. And then he showed up again. And then what happened? He disappeared again. And he showed me again. Your life is not stable. Nobody comes through for you. You have to rely on yourself. Don't depend on me. I'm not going to be here for you. I wanted to be with somebody else the whole time. And then it wasn't even true. Or maybe, look, according to his friend, it wasn't true. Whether it was true or whether it wasn't true, I can tell you right now that if I was marrying somebody and he was in contact with his ex-girlfriend overseas for years, I would cheat on him too. No, I'm only kidding. But I would be pissed. Because why are you contacting your ex-girlfriend if you're marrying me? So the point here is, you got to get out of your own way in the fact of, well, there's no way that he can contact me. Because in this day and age, right, it's not like it was back then when all we had was beepers and not even everyone had one. Now this person can contact you. In fact, the person that wrote this email, I believe, is on the other side of the world from where I am. So you were able to contact me, and I was able to get back to you pretty quickly, considering that we are so far apart that, but in minutes you could hear back from me. But you also believe that I will get back to you because I get back to you. Now, there could come a time where I get so many emails that I don't answer as fast. You hear this? He's letting me know his dish is empty. Let me go put some food in it. This guy. You got to believe that when I'm not on camera, he's fine. He just doesn't like, well, if I'm on the phone, he doesn't like me being on the phone either. All right, what's the matter, buddy? So you have got to believe that this person can contact you. Nothing matters. I mean, you can email, you can Skype, you can WhatsApp. There are a million ways how this person can get in contact with you. Even if you haven't spoken to them in 10 years, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is the thought that you're putting out there. So like I said before, I ran into my friend at the craft store because I don't hold the thoughts that she doesn't like me, she doesn't want to talk to me, I'm never going to see her again. If those are the thoughts that I was holding, I wouldn't have run into her. But my thoughts were, I was laughing, I was remembering a time that we had, I was remembering that she used to work there in college. My vibration was high because I was amused by this and it was funny. So it always comes back to you and your belief. In this day and age, somebody who is in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Italy, England, doesn't matter where, can contact me right now. That's not hokey pokey, it's not magic, it's not hocus pocus. It is the truth. You've got Facebook, Instagram, email, Skype, WhatsApp, YouTube. How many other ways do you need to contact somebody? Now, the problem is the block comes up with the way that people feel about the situation. So if you feel like he's never going to respond to me, he's never going to call me, you're building these blocks up around the situation. Now think about it logically. Why can't he contact you? Because what did you do that was so terrible that he can't contact you? It doesn't matter if he's blocked you on social media. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. If somebody wants to get in contact with you, they will find a way, or the universe will make it happen. But nothing is impossible. It's only impossible if you believe it to be impossible. Now, there are different theories. Some people say, don't reach out to the person. Other people think that it's okay to reach out to them. My thought is, and I think that I get it from Amanda. I think this is Amanda's theory. Because I think Veronica was a little bit more, if you watch her videos, more of like, the person will contact you. You don't have to do it. But Amanda says, as long as you're feeling like you're in a positive place, then you can reach out to them. Excuse me. So, for example, if I was going to reach out to somebody who I thought wasn't going to respond to me, I wouldn't reach out at that moment. I would wait until I had the I don't give a shit attitude. Here it is. And then send it. So if you're second guessing yourself, then you don't do it. You have to wait until you're at the point where you just don't care anymore. So back to my story about the sailor. He always came back to me once I started to forget about him. So there you go. That's the detachment. So first of all, when somebody blows you off like that, it takes you a little while to get it. Because if you don't hear from somebody immediately, you don't think anything of it. You're like, oh, well, he didn't get back to me today. I'll talk to him tomorrow. And then after 2 weeks go by, you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm being blown off. Stop. And then what happens is you start to question yourself. Like, I personally think that the worst thing that you can do to somebody is to just disappear on them. Because tell the person, look, I'm not into you. They'll get over it. Or, whatever the situation is. It's fine. To leave somebody hanging like that is terrible. And it's like torturing somebody. And unfortunately, I guess people just don't have enough nerve to say it. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what was going through his mind. I never got an answer. But I did run into him years later. Years and years later. Um, and I kind of like was able to wish him well, you know. Fuck him. I mean, really, like there was no reason for him to treat me like that. But I look at how I allowed it. Not only did I allow it, but it was what I was putting out there. Well, he disappeared once, he'll disappear again. Um, you know, you never know when you're going to not hear from him again. Well, and then I would talk to my friends about it. So now talking about it, right, it keeps that in motion. Well, do you think I'm going to hear from him? And you know, and then my friends would be like, yeah, you're going to hear from him, because when somebody keeps coming back, chances are you're going to hear from them again, because they're going to keep coming back. Now, what I was putting out was always the mixed messages, always feeling unstable, always feeling insecure, always feeling like he wasn't going to want to be with me, always having, here's another thing, always feeling like somebody else was more important to me. And I don't always mean, it doesn't mean it has to be another girl or another partner or whatever, but always feeling like something was more important than me. And I still struggle with that. Like I still find myself thinking things like, well, maybe they're busy, they have a lot going on with this person, or they have a lot going on here. Stop putting yourself below everybody else. You're the priority. I'm the priority. I come first. Okay? I'm first in her life. I'm first in his life. I'm first in their lives. And then you'll start to be shown that. But if you keep saying, well, that's okay, you know what? Go take care of what he needs, then that's what you're going to wind up with. The person is always going to put you second because you put yourself second. So now getting back into this whole, I hope that I explained that right, because I really wanted you to see how I was putting this out, and it was really just being reflected back to me. Here's another situation. How many people do you know that have been into somebody and the person says to them, I just don't want a relationship right now, right? How many times have you had heard somebody say that? And then 3 weeks later, you turn around and they're marrying somebody else. Because you have put it out that, oh, well, we don't need to be in a relationship. I'll be happy if we're just in contact together. Well, it's a good thing that he just returned my text message. Oh, I was lucky enough I got to see him. No. Put out what you want and intend for it to happen with you. This happens all the time. I hear it all the time. Well, I was with him for 10 years and he told me that he didn't want to get married and have kids, and then he broke up with me, and 2 weeks later he was marrying someone else. Like, I hear this all the time. But you have to bring it back to you all the time. What is it that you're believing? If you believe that this guy or this girl is not going to contact you, then they are not going to contact you until you forget about it and it is no longer in your head and it's gone out the window and you're doing something else. Then that's when the person will show up. This is classic. It happens all the time. I dated somebody off and on for 10 years, right? For the 10 years, right, we would go back and forth. And every once in a while, if I got mad at him for something, he would say, hey, listen, I'm not your boyfriend. We're just friends, right? I heard that a lot. And I would get upset and whatever. I would get upset and we wouldn't talk for a couple of weeks, and then he would show up again. And finally, I cut my losses. And I had moved on, and come to find out that he had moved on long before that, but he was still seeing me, but whatever. But I still talk to him today. And sometimes, like, he's nicer to me now than ever. He's more respectful of me. He is a nicer person to talk to. He's a better friend to me now. Why? Because I don't want to be with him anymore, or because I don't have that need, I don't have that desire, I'm not upset with him. I sent him an email a few weeks ago and I didn't hear back from him for weeks. But I didn't even think, it didn't even cross my mind. And then, I'm not even kidding you, I kid you not, this is how it happened. Sunday morning I thought, I'm like, God, he never answered me. Sunday night I got an email from him. So, you know, it's like that need, the desire, the anxiety around the situation is building up resistance to what's going to happen. And when you start to build up all of this resistance, what happens is there are blocks that push the person further away. And then you don't hear from the person. And then one day turns into 2 days, and then it's 2 weeks, and then it's 2 months, and then before you know it, it's a year and a half, and you're like, well, why haven't I heard from this person? But meanwhile, you have all of this anger and all of this need in your head, and it's spiraling around, and nobody responds to need and desire because it takes too much of their energy. We don't know that we do this, but we do it. If somebody is putting out the energy of, I need you, I want you, why haven't you called me, why haven't you come here, why haven't I seen you, that puts up more blocks. It's that desire and the pining and the wanting that keeps you in that pining and desiring and wanting. If you can just break it down simple with, anything is possible. He can reach me at any point. He's a grown man. He knows how to Skype. He knows how to email me. He knows how to whatever. People's opinions change. People's minds change. I was in a situation recently where I was waiting to hear back from somebody, and I got so annoyed because several days had gone by, and I thought, like, with this one specific way that this person contacts me, I was like, well, you know, if I haven't heard from so-and-so in 3 or 4 days, and I haven't seen so-and-so like I haven't seen the person online in 3 or 4 days, I can't believe that they haven't spoken to anybody. But then it crossed my mind that they might not be contacting everybody in the same way that they're contacting me. Right? So they may be contacting somebody else in a different way, and that's why I'm not seeing it. So you can't start getting into all of this analysis of, well, if he was on Facebook and he wasn't on Facebook, and then he was going to the beach, and then he didn't go to the beach, and maybe there's no service, and maybe there is, because all this is doing is confusing. It's putting out a lot of confusion. All you need to do is say to yourself, I intend for Mary to get in contact with me. I intend for Mary to get in contact with me. I intend for Sal to send me an email. I intend to speak with Sal. I intend to see George twice this week. I intend to see George twice this week. I intend to have dinner with Alex Tuesday night. I intend to go to the movies with Joe on Wednesday evening. That's all you need to do. And just the resistance around it, just let it go. Don't think about it. When you have a thought that's like, I'm never going to go to the movies with Joe on Wednesday. He's not going to show up. I'm going to be sitting there like an idiot and he's not going to. No, stop it. Stop it. I intend for Joe to meet me at the movies on Wednesday at 7, and we are going to see whatever the movie is. And that's it. So it's all of this doubt that is pushing people away. And it's the excuses. Like, I hear excuses from people all the time. Well, maybe it was because his mom didn't like me. Or maybe it was because my hair is curly. Or maybe it's because I have a big nose. Or maybe it's because, or I know that he doesn't like me because my front teeth are crooked. No, none of that shit matters. None of it matters. None of it matters. It matters to you, and that's what you're putting out into the universe. And that's what you're getting back. What the reason is in your head is going out, and it is just pushing that person away. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that Madonna's got a gap in between her teeth, right? People are imperfect. Nobody cares that Cindy Crawford had the mole on the side of her face. Nobody cares. You care. Stop putting out into the universe the things that you think are wrong with you, the things that you think are keeping you from the things that you want, and start putting out the intentions in a positive way. And it can be a little bit difficult or unbelievable in the beginning, but it does get easier. You got blocked on social media? So what? There's a million other ways that this person can contact you. Social media is for fools. Stay off of it. You know, it's like, and it's the truth. Like the closest people to me in my life are not, I'm not even contacted with them on social media. I see them every day, or I talk to them every day, and it has nothing to do with this social media bullshit nonsense, smoke and mirrors that people are fucking obsessed with. Obsessed with. 5,000 pictures go up. I'm like, oh, who wants, look, one picture is nice. 500 pictures, nobody wants to see that much. Nobody cares. You think that you're so happy, you want everyone to be jealous of you? Nobody gives a shit. People think you're an asshole because you think you're an asshole. And if you didn't think you were an asshole and you weren't trying to prove something to the rest of us, you wouldn't be doing that. But you are going to reflect back to you exactly what you think about yourself. And it is the truth. People that are confident, people that know what they're doing, people that have an intention and they follow through with it, they don't have to prove anything to anyone. And they don't have to listen to people say, oh, she's not good enough for you, or he's not good enough for you, or what do you want to do that for? Blah, 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 blah. Or you can't do that. Oh, you're not good enough. No, fuck that. Put your intention out into the world and go for it. There are plenty of people that did not become successful in their lives until they were much older. There are plenty of people that dated somebody at some point and the person disappeared and blew them off, and now that person is dying to get back with the other person. It happens all the time. All the time. I can't tell you how many times, first of all, it's happened to me a bunch of times, but I can't tell you how many times I hear it from a client that will contact me with, they're brokenhearted over something, and then all of a sudden they meet someone else, and now the first jackass is dying to get back because you're no longer harboring all of that anxiety and desire, and your energy has changed, and now they're starting to pick up on that. And chances are you're going to hear from them, and you're probably going to hear from them a lot, and they're probably going to say things to you that you never thought that they were going to hear. Now, what do you do if you're in a situation where you haven't met anybody, right? You haven't met anybody, and you want this person to contact you, and you don't have much going on. So in that case, you're going to have to rely a little bit more on your faith and believe that it is possible. Anything is possible. And if you don't believe that it's possible, well, then it's not going to happen for you. But I can give you a million stories. I can tell you that the woman that I see from that I have my cards read, what she went through with the guy that she married. You know how many times were they together and maybe they broke up and so on and so forth, because that's how relationships go. And when she wanted what she wanted, she set her mind to it and she wound up marrying him. But it's very funny because sometimes people will say things like, oh, well, I'm never going to have that, or I'm never going to do that, or we're never going to do this. And then all of a sudden you find yourself doing it. But it's the power of your own belief. You have to believe it. If you don't believe it, then it's not going to happen. And that's what it comes down to. And I hear people struggle with this all the time. Does the law of attraction work with specific people? Yes, it does. But you have to not have the resistance to it. So think about a time where you thought about somebody and they contacted you. If this was just a random person that you didn't have any emotional blockages with, right? Like my friend outside the craft store. I wasn't thinking, oh, I haven't talked to her in 10 years. Oh my God, she probably doesn't want to speak to me again. I wasn't thinking that at all, because that's not the truth, and that's not what I put out there. Now, she didn't come to my class last night, but she could show up next week because it depends on her work schedule. And if she shows up next week, I'll see her next week. And if not, it'll be the week after. But I don't have to speak to her every day to know that that's going to happen. I just know that it's going to happen, and it happens. But when we take a situation where we think like it's never going to happen, that's where we start building up these resistance, right? So everything that you're putting out into the universe is being reflected back to you, and it's proving you right. You are never going to prove yourself wrong. So if you think, right, that you can't be a long distance runner because you have asthma, you're never going to be a long distance runner. Never, because that's your thought. When I started running, me growing up as a kid and having asthma and allergies and all kinds of shit, that wasn't in my mind. I didn't think about it. It just, for whatever reason, I wasn't thinking about it. And because I wasn't thinking about it, it was never an obstacle for me. And it wasn't until I looked back on it years later and I was like, I can't believe that I am a long distance runner when as a kid I hated gym. I hated it. I hated it. I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt. It was miserable. Now it's not even something that I think about. I get up in the morning, I put my sneakers on, I go out, and I don't think, hey, I have asthma, and it doesn't bother me anymore. I mean, there are people that they just don't, like my father is a great example. There are some things that just don't bother him, and he just does not focus on it. Whereas somebody like me, I tend to focus on these things and make them bigger than they are. Whatever you give energy to is going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. It's going to blow up. If you give no energy to something, it's going to go away. You know how, like, if a kid is acting up, they always say ignore him, because if you laugh at him and you give him energy, he's going to do it more. Well, it's the same thing with everything. And it's your own belief, right? And it's your own thoughts that are surrounding this person. So if you're thinking to yourself, Mary blocked me on social media. I haven't heard from Mary in a year. Mary doesn't want to speak to me again. I really wish Mary would call me. You're putting out all of this resistance when what you want to do is just turn it all around. I intend to hear from Mary soon. I intend for Mary to contact me every day. I intend to see Mary once or twice a week. I intend for my relationship with Mary to be better than ever. It doesn't matter what went on in the past, because we can erase that and move forward. So you forget about what happened in the past and you move forward with the new intentions. I'm the most important thing in Bob's life. Mike can't wait to see me tomorrow. I know that Alex can't wait to make me dinner on Tuesday evening. Like, you always want it to be in the positive, and you always want it to be that you're the most important. I know that I'm the most important person in Larry's life. I know that I'm the most important person in George's world. George treats me like I'm a princess. These are the intentions. So you change it around. And the only reason why you believe it can't happen is because you've proven it to yourself by believing it can't happen. You prove to yourself every day that George isn't going to call you, and George doesn't call you. Now change it around and make George call you. I intend to hear from George. I intend to speak to George. I intend to see George every day. And that's what you just stick with. Whenever it pops into your head that something negative is going on or you're feeling negative, and let me tell you something, we're human. We have human emotions. Some days it's very difficult. It's okay. That's okay. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel like, you've been taken advantage of, or that you got the short end of the stick. It's okay to feel like that, but you don't want to marinate in it and project that out constantly. So if you're feeling like so-and-so took advantage of me and now I'm not hearing from them and whatever, you want to change it with, I intend to hear from so-and-so. He always gets back to me. We have dinner twice a week. I can't wait for us to go to the beach this summer. Whatever it is, change it around, because it's your own doubts in your mind that are going out into the universe and they're being reflected back to you. And if you don't believe me, look at what's gone on for you. Look at what's gone on for you. Have you made progress in your situation, or are you feeling like you haven't gotten anywhere? Now, the subject of free will, right? People will always say that. Especially when I was studying Wicca years ago, they would say, oh, that you can't put a spell on somebody, right? Because that's interfering with their free will. And what goes out will come back to you 3 times. That's what Wiccans believe. Some pagans believe 10 times, whatever. But this is what I'm going to tell you. I don't care what religion. I don't care if you do spells or you don't do spells. It all comes back to your mind. That's what it comes down to. If you don't have a red candle, you don't need any candles. You do it with your mind. Any witch will tell you that it's the power of the intention that goes into the spell, which is the same thing as you willing it with your mind. So as far as putting it on somebody, nobody has free will in your life but you. So you're writing the script. So if you're writing George into your life, and you're writing Amanda into your life, and you're writing Veronica into your life, they're going to respond to you because you're bringing them into your life. Now, if I were to write in my script, you know, I worked with Veronica for a while. We were doing email sessions. I even spoke to her on the phone once. And if I wrote into my life that she's not going to have time for me, she's not going to want to see me, she's not going to have time to email me back, that's what would get reflected. And one way or another, she would get too busy that she just wouldn't have the time to get back to me. That's what would happen. But if my attitude is, she always gets back to me, she's very quick, then that's what's going to get reflected. And she has different packages. There are some packages where she gets back to you like every day. But it doesn't matter. I'm just hypothetically saying, if I had it in my head, oh, I'm not important, she's not going to get back to me, that's what would be reflected. So she doesn't have the free will. What happens is it goes up into the universal consciousness, and it's what gets reflected to her. So, for example, if I said, if I say I went out wearing this wig, right? And I would feel self-conscious. I'd be like, people know I'm wearing a purple wig. It's crazy. Why would I go out in a purple wig? You know, it's not Halloween. But meanwhile, I'm on the internet with it, and I don't think twice about that. But imagine if I went out with the attitude, oh my God, look at this wig. It's so beautiful. Look at the color. It complements my eyes and my skin, and it just makes me look like so different. I would run into people that would say that to me. They would say to me, oh my God, look at your hair. It's such a pretty color. It complements your skin tone, whatever. And if you don't believe it, it's the truth. Because I used to have this feeling where I used to feel invisible. Like I used to feel like, does anybody even see me here? And people would never notice me. Like I could be anywhere and people would just not notice me. Like they would step on my feet, they would walk over me, they would not say hello to me. Oh, I didn't even see you there. Because I was invisible, because that's what I was thinking. I would slip in and slip out really fast and people would never even know I was there. But this is what I was putting out. So that's what was getting reflected back to me. If you go out and you have, and I'm not talking about going out somewhere special, but if you just go out, you know, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to work, and you have this presence where I'm here, look at my new hairstyle, look at this, what do you think? People are going to respond back to it in a positive way. I mean, this, right, for me, I mean, I see people with purple hair all the time. I think it looks great. For me, I would not go out wearing this wig unless it was Halloween. It's just, I just wouldn't. Or unless I was going out in costume because I was hiding from someone. But people do. People wear purple wigs all the time. People dye their hair purple. And they rock it because they have the confidence. And that's what it comes down to. You have to believe in it for yourself. And if you don't believe in it, then you're going to get reflected back with all of your insecurities because that's what you're focused on. You know, like I hear people tell me things all the time like, well, I'm too short, or he doesn't like me because I have a big nose, or we have different religious backgrounds, or we have this, that, and the next thing. None of that stuff matters. None of it matters. What matters is what's going on in your mind. And as long as you're building up these reasons why it can't work, then these reasons are going to be reflected back to you. I promise that. And if you don't believe me, look back on your life. Look back on your life. Look back on my life. Look at me with that sailor. I always felt like he was unstable. I always felt like it was insecure. He disappeared once. He showed up months later or a year later. Spoke to him for a while. He never wanted to see me in person. And I always had that feeling like, oh, well, when he comes home, he's going to want to see me. And then it's like, and then my attitude would be, well, he has so many people. I don't want to take him away from his family. Fuck that. Take him away from his family. He can make time for you. Why is it that nobody ever has enough time for me? Meanwhile, I make time for everyone. There's 24 hours in a day. You can find a half hour to spend with me. That's it. End of story. I don't hear any excuses because there are none. But unless you start to change your thinking about it, then you're going to keep getting that, well, he was busy, he had to have lunch with his mother, and his father needed him, and the next door neighbor needed him, and he had to repave the guy's driveway across the street, and he had to pluck the weeds for that person, and he just doesn't have time for me. Well, then he's not going to have time for you. That's going to be a given. And you don't have to stand on your head, and you don't have to throw a tantrum, and you don't have to go super bitch. You just have to believe that you're important to this person, and they will reach out to you somehow. They can get in contact with you. There are a million ways: email, Skype, WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. There are so many ways that this person can get in touch with you, and they can do it right now. They can have already done it while we were on the phone. I'll tell you this story, one last story, and then I'm going to go. Sunday morning, I did a meditation where I was playing binaural beats that were 528 hertz, which is the frequency of love. And I asked the class to pick a person to meditate on and send this person love. Now, it could be anybody. It could be a child. I even said it could be an animal. If you have an animal, like your dog or your cat, you want to send them love. Envision your animal and send them love in your mind's eye while this music played. So after class, we came out, and this one woman said to me, she goes, maybe it's a coincidence. She's like, but the person that I was thinking about, and she goes, I don't normally believe in this stuff. And whenever you do it, I usually don't participate. I just lay there. She's like, but today I figured, all right, let me try it. So I focused on a certain person, and when I came out of class, she left me a voicemail. She's like, 15 minutes ago, she left me a voicemail. So just as we were getting into that meditation, she was leaving me a voicemail. It happens. It happens. It happens for all of us. You just have to believe it. And you just have to put in a little bit of energy and banish away some of the negative thinking. Just change it. I'm never going to hear from him again. I'm going to hear from him every day. I'm not going to see him again. I'm going to see him every day. I'm going to get so sick of seeing so much of him. He's getting on my nerves. Like, that's how you want to think. God, I hope that this made some sense and that I didn't just babble for the last hour. All right, let me know what you think. I'll talk to you soon. If you like what we're doing here at the Magic Junk Jar, don't forget to like and subscribe, share us with your friends.